You've seen him before. The man who walks into a room and needs nothing from anyone, no approval, no attention, no validation, while others fight for status, compete for recognition, and exhaust themselves trying to fit in. He simply exists on his own terms, completely unbothered, entirely self-sufficient. This is the Sigma male, and there's a reason why he's called the lone wolf. But here's what most people get wrong. Being a lone wolf isn't about hating people. It's not about being antisocial or broken. It's about something far deeper, something most will never understand. If you've ever felt like you don't belong in the crowd, if you've ever questioned why you prefer your own company over meaningless social games, then this video will finally give you the answers you've been searching for. Welcome to Official Sigma Male. If you're new here and you want to understand the mindset that separates the ordinary from the exceptional, subscribe now and join a community that truly gets it. Let's begin. 1. The nature of the lone wolf. In the wild, the lone wolf is not the weakest of the pack. He is often the strongest, the one who looked around, assessed the dynamics, and made a conscious decision. This is not where I belong. The same applies to the Sigma male. From an early age, something felt different. While other kids desperately wanted to fit in, to be accepted, to follow the crowd, the Sigma observed. He watched the social games, he noticed the masks people wore, and somewhere deep inside, he knew he wasn't built for this. This isn't arrogance, this is awareness. The Sigma male possesses an innate understanding that most social structures are built on hierarchy, competition, and approval seeking, and none of that interests him. He doesn't want to climb the ladder. He doesn't want to dominate others. He simply wants to be left alone to pursue what truly matters to him. Think about it. The alpha fights to lead the pack. The beta fights to stay in the pack. But the Sigma, he steps outside the pack entirely. He creates his own territory, his own rules, his own definition of success. This is his nature, not made, not forced, born. He's not running away from society. He's simply refusing to participate in games he never agreed to play. And that distinction is everything. The lone wolf doesn't howl for attention. He moves in silence, focused on his own hunt, his own journey, his own evolution. And that is where his power begins. 2. Independence over validation. Here's a truth that most men will never accept. The need for validation is a prison, and most people spend their entire lives locked inside it without even realizing the bars exist. They wake up and check their phones for likes. They speak to impress rather than express. They make decisions based on what others might think. Every action, every word, every choice filtered through the lens of external approval. The Sigma male broke free from this prison long ago. He understood something fundamental. When you need validation from others, you give them control over your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately your life. You become a puppet, and someone else is always holding the strings. But independence, true independence, that's when you take the strings back. That's when you realize that your worth is not determined by applause, by followers, by compliments, or by acceptance. The Sigma validates himself from within. He finishes a project and feels satisfied, not because someone praised him, but because he knows he gave his best. He makes a decision and stands by it, not because others agree, but because it aligns with his values. He walks away from situations that don't serve him, not caring if people understand, because he doesn't owe anyone an explanation. This level of independence is terrifying to most people, because it means standing alone. It means being misunderstood. It means watching others chase approval while you chase purpose. But for the Sigma, there is no other way to live. He would rather be unknown and free than famous and enslaved. 3. The power of silence. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become the rarest form of power. Everyone is shouting, everyone is posting, everyone is desperate to be heard, to be seen, to be noticed. Social media turned every person into a broadcaster, constantly transmitting their opinions, their meals, their emotions, their entire existence. But the Sigma male, he watches, he listens, he observes, and he says nothing. This is not weakness, this is strategy. While others reveal everything about themselves, their plans, their insecurities, their next move, the Sigma remains unreadable. He understands that words are currency, and most people are bankrupt because they spend them recklessly. Silence protects him. It creates mystery. It forces others to wonder, to guess, to fill in the blanks with their imagination. And in that uncertainty, the Sigma holds all the cards. But there's something deeper here. The Sigma doesn't speak unless his words improve upon the silence. He has no interest in small talk, gossip, or meaningless conversations that drain energy and produce nothing. When he speaks, it matters. When he shares an opinion, people lean in. Because they know, this man doesn't waste words. There's an old proverb that says the empty vessel makes the loudest noise. The Sigma internalized this truth early. He realized that those who talk the most often know the least. And those who remain silent are usually the ones paying the closest attention. His silence is not empty. It's full of observation, analysis, and understanding. While others talk their way into trouble, the Sigma stays silent and stays ahead. 4. Walking their own path. There's a road that society builds for you before you're even born. Go to school, get good grades, attend university, find a stable job, buy a house, get married, have children, retire, die. This is the script, the blueprint, the path that billions follow without ever questioning why. It's printed in invisible ink on the walls of every classroom, whispered in family gatherings, reinforced by every commercial, every movie, every conversation about what a successful life should look like. The Sigma male looked at this road and walked the other direction, not out of rebellion, not to be different for the sake of being different, but because he asked himself one simple question that most people are too afraid to ask. Is this what I actually want? Or is this just what I've been told to want? And when he found that his answer didn't match society's expectations, he had the courage to choose himself. This is incredibly rare, rarer than most people realize. You see, the social pressure to conform is overwhelming. From the moment you're born, you're shaped by expectations. Your parents have dreams for you. Your teachers have standards for you. Your peers have judgments for you. Society has a box ready and waiting for you to climb inside. Most people do climb in, not because they want to, but because stepping outside the box feels dangerous. It feels uncertain. It feels lonely. But the Sigma understands something profound. The greatest risk is not taking one. The greatest failure is living someone else's life. The greatest tragedy is reaching the end of your days and realizing you followed a map that was never yours to follow. So he creates his own map. He sits down with himself. In that solitude, he's learned to love, and he asks the hard questions. What do I value? What makes me come alive? What would I pursue if no one was watching, if no one would ever know, if there was no applause at the end? And whatever answers emerge, he builds his life around them. Maybe it's financial freedom, the ability to wake up without an alarm, to work on projects that matter, to answer to no one. Maybe it's creative expression, art, music, writing, building something from nothing. Maybe it's simply peace of mind, a quiet life away from chaos, drama, and the endless noise of modern existence. Whatever it is, it comes from within, not from external expectations. Not from what looks good on paper, not from what impresses others. The world will call him lost. They'll shake their heads and whisper that he's wasting his potential. His family might worry. His old friends might distance themselves. Society will try everything to pull him back to the main road, back to the script, back to the box. But the Sigma knows the truth that the crowd will never understand. The main road is crowded for a reason, because it's easy to follow, hard to question, and comfortable in its predictability. And the path less traveled is empty for a reason too, because it demands courage, self-trust, and the willingness to stand alone. He walks alone, and with every step, he feels more alive than he ever did following the crowd. There's a quote that resonates deeply with the Sigma mindset. A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep, not because he despises the sheep, but because he understands they're playing a different game entirely. The Sigma is not better than others. He's simply different, and he's made peace with that difference. He doesn't need the world to understand his path. He doesn't need validation for his choices. He doesn't need permission to live authentically. All he needs is the courage to keep walking. And that he has in abundance. 5. Selective connections. Let's clear up a common misconception that follows the Sigma male everywhere he goes. People see him alone and assume he's lonely. They watch him leave social events early and assume he's awkward. They notice his small circle and assume he can't make friends. They couldn't be more wrong. The Sigma male is not anti-social. He is selectively social. And there is a massive difference between the two. Antisocial means avoiding all human contact. It means isolation born from fear, trauma, or inability to connect. It's a defense mechanism, a wall built from pain. That's not the Sigma. Selectively social means choosing very carefully who gets access to your time, your energy, and your inner world. It means understanding that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. It means recognizing that your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess, and refusing to waste it on those who don't appreciate it. The Sigma recognizes something that most people completely ignore. Relationships are investments. Every single person you allow into your life will either add value or drain value. There is no neutral ground. Every connection costs something: time, energy, emotion, focus, peace of mind. So he chooses wisely, more wisely than anyone around him. He doesn't need 100 friends to feel important. He doesn't need to be invited to every party to feel included. He doesn't measure his worth by how full his social calendar is or how many contacts are in his phone. Instead, he cultivates a small circle. 2 or 3 people, maybe less, who truly understand him. People who respect his need for solitude without taking it personally. People who bring depth, not drama. People who challenge him to grow rather than pulling him down to their level. Quality over quantity, depth over breadth, always. Think about it from a practical standpoint. When you have 50 shallow friendships, you spread yourself thin. You spend weekends at events you don't care about, having conversations you'll forget by Monday, maintaining connections that exist only on the surface. You're busy, but you're not fulfilled. You're surrounded, but you're still alone in the ways that matter most. The Sigma rejects this model entirely. He understands that one real friend, someone who knows your fears, your dreams, your true self, is worth more than 1,000 acquaintances who only know your name and your face. And here's what makes this approach so powerful. Because the Sigma is selective, his presence becomes valuable. It becomes meaningful. When he chooses to spend time with someone, it's not by default or obligation. It's a conscious decision. And people feel that. When he opens up, it's rare and therefore precious. When he gives his attention, it's undivided and genuine. When he calls you a friend, you know it's not a casual word. It's a bond he's chosen carefully. There's also protection in this selectivity. The Sigma has learned, sometimes through painful experience, that not everyone has good intentions. Some people drain your energy on purpose. Some people keep you around to feel better about themselves. Some people smile to your face and speak poison behind your back. By keeping his circle small, the Sigma minimizes these risks. He knows exactly who he's dealing with. There are no hidden agendas, no fake friendships. No toxic dynamics disguised as connection. His inner circle is a fortress, small but impenetrable. Most people collect connections like trophies on a shelf, impressive to look at but ultimately meaningless. The Sigma collects meaningful relationships like rare treasures, few in number but immeasurable in value. He would rather have one real conversation that touches the soul than 1,000 shallow ones that evaporate into nothing. He would rather sit in comfortable silence with someone who truly understands him than perform for a crowd that never will. And in this approach, he finds something most people search for their entire lives but never quite grasp. Genuine human connection, the kind that doesn't require masks, the kind that doesn't drain you, the kind that actually makes you a better man. 6. Self-reliance as a lifestyle. Dependency is comfortable. That's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about. It's easy to rely on others. It's easy to let someone else make decisions for you. It's easy to outsource your happiness, your security, your entire sense of self to external factors that feel stable but can disappear in an instant. And that's exactly why most people choose dependency. Not consciously, not deliberately, but slowly, gradually, until one day they wake up and realize they can't function alone. They depend on their jobs for security and live in constant fear of being fired. They depend on relationships for happiness and fall apart when those relationships end. They depend on social approval for self-worth and crumble when criticism comes. They depend on distractions for peace and panic when forced to sit in silence. Their entire identity is built on things they don't control, and when any of these pillars are removed, the whole structure collapses. The Sigma male looked at this way of living and recognized it for what it is: a trap, a beautifully disguised prison that feels like safety but delivers fragility. So he built his life differently. He built it on a foundation of one, himself. Now, let's be clear about what self-reliance actually means, because it's often misunderstood. Self-reliance doesn't mean rejecting all help. It doesn't mean thinking you're invincible. It doesn't mean isolating yourself from everyone and everything. That's not strength. That's stubbornness disguised as independence. True self-reliance means something far more nuanced and powerful. It means never putting yourself in a position where your survival, emotional, financial, psychological, or spiritual, depends entirely on something outside your control. It means building redundancies, creating options, developing the skills and mindset to handle whatever life throws at you. The Sigma develops multiple skills so he's never trapped in one career. If this job ends, he has options. If this industry collapses, he can pivot. He's not desperately clinging to one paycheck because it's all he knows how to earn. He builds savings and manages his finances with discipline, so he's never desperate for money. He doesn't need to stay in situations that destroy his soul just because the bills are due. Money is a tool to him, not a master. He cultivates inner peace through solitude, reflection, and self-knowledge, so he's never destroyed by external chaos. When the world goes crazy around him, and it will, he has a center that holds, a calm within the storm that no circumstance can shake. He learns to enjoy his own company, so he's never truly lonely when alone. He can sit with himself for hours, days, weeks, and feel perfectly content. His happiness doesn't require another person's presence to exist. This level of self-reliance creates something that cannot be bought, taught, or faked: unshakable confidence. When you know, truly know, that you can handle whatever life throws at you, fear loses its grip. You stop making decisions based on anxiety and start making them based on vision. You stop avoiding risk and start calculating it intelligently. When you don't need anyone to complete you, you enter relationships from a position of strength rather than desperation. You choose partners because you want them, not because you need them to fill a void. And that's when relationships become healthy, balanced, and genuinely fulfilling. When your happiness comes from within, no external event can permanently destroy it. You can lose a job and rebuild. You can end a relationship and recover. You can face criticism, rejection, failure, all of it, and still return to a baseline of peace, because that peace was never dependent on circumstances in the first place. The Sigma watched others build their lives like houses of cards, dependent on so many external factors that one strong wind could bring everything crashing down. A job loss, a breakup, a health scare, one unexpected event, and years of stability vanish overnight. So he built his life like a fortress instead, solid walls of skill, discipline, and self-knowledge, strong foundations of financial independence and emotional resilience, a moat of boundaries that keeps toxic influences at a distance. Not because he fears the world, but because he respects its unpredictability. He can appreciate others without needing them to survive. He can love deeply without unhealthy attachment. He can engage fully with the world without being enslaved by its opinions, its expectations, or its chaos. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom that comes only when you take complete, absolute, unwavering responsibility for yourself and everything in your life. Most people will never know this freedom. They'll spend their entire existence dependent, hoping things work out, praying that the pillars they've built on don't crumble. The Sigma doesn't hope. He prepares, he builds, he becomes his own pillar, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can take that away from him. 7. The strength in solitude. Most people fear solitude because they don't like who they find when the noise stops. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? No phone, no music, no television, no podcast filling your ears, no conversation to distract you. Just you, alone, with nothing but your own thoughts for company. For most people, this scenario sounds like torture, and that reaction reveals something profound about the human condition. When there are no distractions, no notifications buzzing, no entertainment consuming attention, people are forced to sit with themselves. They're forced to hear their own thoughts, feel their own emotions, confront their own fears and regrets and unfulfilled dreams. And for most, that's absolutely terrifying. So they run, they always run. They keep the television on even when they're not watching. They scroll through social media for hours, absorbing content they won't remember tomorrow. They fill every moment of silence with noise, every second of stillness with activity. Anything at all, to avoid being alone with the one person they can never escape, themselves. The Sigma male is fundamentally different. He runs towards solitude, not away from it. He seeks it out. He protects it. He treats it as sacred, because he knows something that the crowd will never understand. Solitude is where transformation happens. It's where clarity is born. It's where the mind sharpens, the vision crystallizes, and the soul recharges from the endless drain of modern existence. In solitude, there are no masks to wear, no social performances to maintain, no expectations to meet, no personas to uphold. There is only truth, raw, unfiltered, brutally honest truth about who you are, what you want, and where you're going. The greatest thinkers in history understood this deeply. The philosophers retreated to isolation to develop their ideas. The artists disappeared into solitude to create their masterpieces. The spiritual leaders spent years alone in deserts, mountains, and monasteries. The inventors locked themselves away until their visions became reality. They all sought solitude because they knew that the deepest wisdom, the most profound insights, the most revolutionary ideas don't come from the crowd. They don't emerge from busy social calendars or endless meetings or constant conversation. They come from within. And you can only access that inner well when you create the space for it. The Sigma uses solitude as his sanctuary. He retreats from the world not because he's weak or afraid, but because he's building something. He's working on projects that require deep focus. He's processing experiences and extracting lessons. He's planning his next move while others are distracted by the chaos of the present. He disappears not because he's lost, but because he's finding himself at levels most people will never reach. Peeling back layers, confronting shadows, integrating all the parts of himself into a cohesive, powerful whole. And when he returns to the world, he's different, sharper, stronger, more focused than ever before. People notice the change but can't quite explain it. There's something in his eyes, a clarity, a certainty, a depth that wasn't there before. It's the look of a man who has done the inner work that most avoid their entire lives. Society constantly pushes the message that being alone means something is wrong with you. If you're not surrounded by friends, you're a loser. If you're not constantly socializing, you're weird. If you enjoy your own company more than crowds, you must be broken somehow. The Sigma knows the opposite is true. The ability to be alone, truly alone, and remain at peace is one of the greatest signs of mental and emotional strength in existence. It means you've made friends with yourself. It means you've conquered the inner demons that make others run from silence. It means you've built an internal world so rich, so fulfilling, that you don't need constant external stimulation to feel alive. There's an important distinction here that changes everything. Loneliness is wanting to be with others, but being unable to. It's a painful state of lack, of craving connection, but finding none. It's suffering. Solitude is choosing to be alone and being completely content with that choice. It's not a lack, it's a presence, the presence of self, the presence of peace, the presence of freedom. The Sigma doesn't experience loneliness, he experiences freedom. Freedom from the need to perform, freedom from social obligations that drain rather than fulfill, freedom from the exhausting game of trying to be liked by everyone. In that freedom, he discovers something remarkable. He actually enjoys his own company. His mind is interesting enough, his projects fulfilling enough, his inner world rich enough that he doesn't need constant external input to feel complete. And in that completeness, he becomes unstoppable, because a man who has conquered the fear of being alone fears nothing else. A man who finds peace in solitude cannot be manipulated by threats of isolation or rejection. A man who has built a kingdom within himself doesn't need to conquer external kingdoms to feel powerful. The lone wolf thrives not in spite of his solitude, but because of it. It's his secret weapon, his recharging station, his sanctuary in a world that never stops demanding, never stops distracting, never stops trying to pull him back into the chaos. He guards his solitude jealously, and in doing so, he guards his greatest source of strength. And now you understand, the Sigma male is called a lone wolf, not because he's incapable of connection, but because he refuses to compromise his authenticity for the illusion of belonging. He walks alone because he knows that the most powerful path is the one you carve for yourself. He chooses solitude not out of weakness, but out of profound strength. He understands that in a world full of noise, the man who masters silence masters everything. This is not loneliness, this is freedom. Remember, the wolf who runs with the pack must follow the pack's rules. But the lone wolf, he answers to no one but himself. If this video resonated with something deep inside you, then you already know you're different. You already know you're not meant for the ordinary life. And that's exactly why you belong here. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is built for men like you, men who walk their own path, who value depth over distraction, and who refuse to live by anyone else's script. Until next time, stay sharp, stay focused, stay Sigma.